Find your path with the knowledge of others and become an illuminator for those who struggle. Guide their way just by being true and being in alignment, because it comes naturally to you. On self-discovery wisdom, we share to find inspiration with lessons for millions. We hope you listen.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Building Your Business right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy. My guest today is Gayle Marie Morrison. We're going to be talking about alchemy, turning your story into a business magnet. Every entrepreneur has a story, but few know how to craft it into a message that moves people to action. In this episode, we're going to unpack the psychology and the heart behind the storytelling in business, how to turn your lessons, experiences, and even your struggles into a magnetic brand messaging that converts. Your story is not just your past, it's your positioning power. When told strategically, it transforms your narrative into the most valuable marketing asset. She says that she's always been rooted in transformation. She loves to help purpose-driven entrepreneurs find their voice, own their story, build their business that reflects who they truly are. Through her own journey, she's learned that visibility without alignment leads to burnout. And when your message mirrors your mission, it becomes magnetic. Over the years, she's evolved from simply creating marketing strategies to guiding others through clarity and confidence and conscious communication. What drives her now is witnessing the moment when someone realizes they can lead, serve, and prosper without compromising their authenticity. Her work is about helping people be seen for who they are, not just what they sell, but because that's their business growth and impact to begin. She's a certified marketing strategist, consultant, coach, and speaker, author, and she thrives on interaction and innovation and communication with a passion that ignites change. And she's dedicated her career to helping people and individuals catapult their brand visibly and engage with their target audience effectively and drive unprecedented growth. We're going to be talking about the Clarity Compass workbook, but that will come later in the show. She's giving it away, folks, but we need to know what it is she's giving away. So let's dive right in and find out how we can be more alchemic in our business. Welcome to the show, Gayle Marie.
Well, thank you so much for having me and the invite, and I'm glad to be here and be able to have this opportunity to speak to each of you about a subject that I'm passionate about, that is critical in building a successful business. So thank you very much, Sarah.
My pleasure. And there's a few things that kind of already have, highlighted themselves. Authenticity,
Yes.
right? And you're not selling what you're selling you. And if people buy you in your authenticity, if they feel a real connection to you and your passion and what you do and what you're offering, then they're more likely to want to buy from you. But there are so many people are pushing whatever it is they're selling, and what they're not doing is building a connection and showing who they are. In other words, this is my story. This is why I do what I do. And that's what people become engaged with, isn't it?
That is so true. It's most people don't believe that they have a story worth telling, but it's the contrary. When you talk about your story, yes, you are vulnerable, but if you do it in a strategic way, it's not noise.
Yes.
Because there's a problem with we call the market is currently saturated with sameness. And so unstructured sharing amplifies confusion, not connection. And that's why I'm passionate about this subject. Telling your story in the right way. And there's a formula to it, and we'll talk about that a little later, but telling it in the right way and understanding your position in the story and what is relevant. Each one of us has a story. And with that story told in the right way, guess what's going to happen? Your authenticity comes through,
Hmm.
your passion comes through, and you then connect with what I call your tribe.
Yeah. I always call these shows why shows. You
Hmm.
know, why are you doing what you're doing? You know, what was the journey into getting there? Whom does it serve and how? Well,
Hmm.
that's the same in any business. People want to know
Yes,
why.
yes,
You know, we know the salesman that all the words are coming out, but there's no connection.
right,
But we
right.
know when somebody says, look, I hear you. I went through this struggle. Now, in the past, to admit any crevices, any falls, any, quote, failures would be a
Hmm.
sign of weakness. Now it's a
Correct.
sign of resilience because you
It is.
got back up.
Right. Not only did you get back up, but you're able to show someone else that may be falling how to
Hmm.
hold on, how to stay in the game, and that it's possible to do so. That's what your story,
Yeah.
provides that information to them. And it's an encouragement, it's an inspiration.
Hmm.
So, because being authentic is not just enough. You do have to structure your authenticity in order for it to be a business strategy.
Hmm.
So, looking at how you got back up is important to share with others so you can show them the process.
Yeah.
People are looking for, of course, the authenticity, but more important, they're looking for the real person with the
Mhm.
real issue that can talk to me where I am and help me get to the next level.
You know, with the whole AI thing right now, and AI has its place. It's also here to stay. It is a tool. How do we use it, et cetera, et cetera. It, and we see AI kind of, I'm getting all the time emails that either have been written by AI, or an automated program,
Yeah,
because although the words are different and addressing different people, the format is the same. So I know people
right.
are using that.
Yes,
So,
yes.
and that's all very well, but if people are more engaged, if there's personalization in there, and I think with the more and more what we're seeing kind of in the artificial presentation, more and
Mhm.
more people are wanting that warmth, that understanding, that
Yes,
compassion, that capability, somebody who's willing to offer an ear to what
right,
it is you, the client, really needs.
right,
Right.
right.
And not automotive, and I think that's driving us even more to that connection.
It is driving us more towards that connection, which is a good thing.
Hmm.
Now, I am a certified AI consultant, so I
Nothing wrong with
have
it.
many, many, many AI platforms that I go, work with different businesses to
Hmm.
determine what should be automated.
Yes.
And those things are the mundane,
Hmm.
everyday
Hmm.
business things that need to be done, should be automated.
Yes.
Why? To free up your time so that you can spend time with your client. And
Yes.
that's the problem that they're having is they're trying to let AI do everything
Yeah.
for them,
Hmm.
and they lose their authenticity. They lose the human touch,
Yeah.
the ability to connect and understand, to empathize, and to speak directly to that person exactly where they are with the right message at the right time. And AI cannot do that.
No.
AI should not do that.
It will make you more efficient, but it's not you
Yes,
just going in there for the closing.
correct,
Yes, you've got to go in
correct.
there for the opening. Then you set AI in there to doing whatever it is you're offering, as
Well,
an assistant.
even with your story as well as with the business, there should be, and this is what I help my clients with, multiple touch points
Hmm.
throughout the system
Hmm.
that combines the automation with the human. And
Hmm.
so when you combine the two with those touch points, then you have a powerful,
Yes.
powerful platform, a process, and a structure that is going to resonate with your audience.
I mean, AI can be your team and
Yes,
it can be multifaceted team,
yes.
right? Whatever job you're giving it,
Hmm.
you've still got to check it, right? You
Oh
still
my
got to
goodness.
verify. Don't just let it carte blanche go out there,
Well,
you know.
most people are using Chat GPT,
Hmm.
and Chat GPT has its place, although there's other platforms now that have well exceeded Chat GPT. However, What they don't understand is that they're going into the chat and they're putting in a very generic question,
Hmm.
and they get all of this wonderful information, it appears,
Hmm.
and they just take it and use it,
Hmm.
not realizing that hundreds of thousands of others within that last 2 minutes
Hmm.
or less have put in a similar question, and they're all getting the same information.
Yes.
So there's a way to sidestep that and actually get something to have the chat dig deeper and give you information. But prompting is such a key.
Hmm.
If people understood what they're asking, they would
Hmm.
get better responses. And so I
Yeah.
try to help people to understand. However, you have to have the strategy first. That has to be solid. That's what the clarity comes in, even with your
Right.
story. There's certain things that you must be clear on from a marketing strategy point of view, and then you can build from there with other automation systems.
Very often, I say that podcasting is like a calling card. When you've done a podcast and you share it out, it's a way for someone to get to know you, guest,
Mhm.
whatever podcast you're on,
Mhm.
because you're sharing your authenticity, you're sharing your vulnerability, your journey.
Yes,
All
yes.
right. And then when people resonate with that, and they don't
Mhm.
just see your success, but they see what you did to get there, and
Yes,
then how you took those ups and downs, those Grand Canyons, those potholes, those everything
yes,
else, and you learn to um, create a way of avoidance for someone else, or
yes, that is true.
devise something for you that you could apply, to your next step so that you don't fall
Yes,
down again.
yes.
Then people go, okay, these are people that are learning from those potholes. They're learning from those falls. I don't
Mhm.
consider them failures. I call them redirects. I think failures when
Yes,
you give up. But
yes.
I think it's also very important to know when something has had its time and you need to pivot in another direction.
Speaking of pivoting, let's talk briefly about the paradigm shift
Hmm.
and understanding when you're crafting your story, you write it out, and you review it, but you need to understand who is the hero in your story.
Mm.
Now, if your brand is your hero, that's going to cause friction.
Hmm.
If your customer is your hero, that's going to create conversion, connection, engagement. So
Hmm.
when I talk to people about telling their story, and this will kind of encapsulate what we've talked about thus far, is that you're telling your story, but you're telling it from the customer's point of view.
Hmm.
In essence, you're talking about what they are going through
Hmm.
that you also went through, and there's
Hmm.
already an automatic connection
Yes.
because they feel that you understand and that you've done that, but you have to explain it so
Hmm.
that they see themselves in your story.
The
So the
mirroring.
customer
Mm.
becomes the hero.
And like, yes, because you want people to go, gosh, yes, I'm going through that, or I've been through something
Yes,
similar. How did
yes,
you do it?
yes,
And you talk about that resilience. I'm at that spot right now, and I want to give up. But how did you carry on? You want
yes,
people to be engaged enough to ask how,
yes,
or
yes.
how can you help me through it?
Right,
It always the
exactly.
inspiration begets invitation.
Yes, it does. It does. And with the vulnerability, you start, and as I do quite a bit of training and seminars, speaking engagements, I tell people to provide them with value
Mm.
before the ask. Because
Yes.
and that's what part of your story does. It lets them know that you understand where they are. And then once that understanding has been conveyed, then you pivot somewhat to
Mm.
why you have the solution or why you're the
Mm.
person that can assist them, not only from credentials, not only from experience, but also just being able to connect with where they are.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I've been a podcaster for 14 years, and so I've got like 20 different genres here.
Okay.
And, but people say, well, who do what's your niche? Who do you interview? And
Hmm.
they said, but you've got so many different topics. And I said, yes, it's the conversation. can be
Hmm.
anywhere. But
Right.
for me, it's, are they coming from the heart? Do they
Yes.
truly wish to serve?
Yes.
You know, are they really here for someone else? Because if they're here only for their ego, wrong platform. If they're
Right.
here to be in service of others because of their experience, because of their
Right.
expertise, that's
Right.
coming from the heart. And so
Yes.
it doesn't matter what the topic is. So a
That's
lot of
true.
people get caught up in niche market, where
Right.
rather
Right.
than having, I think, kind of a compass of the people that you want to serve.
That's true. Now, when you have what's called your ideal client,
Mm-hmm.
that is a very, very broad topic. Your ideal client could be women in business.
Mm-hmm.
It's as broad as it can get. But
Yes.
then you have various personalities, like what
Mm-hmm.
you're saying, you have 16 or more different platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, you are able to talk to each segment of that audience differently, and you need to know how to do that and why to do that. But most importantly, in identifying your ideal client, it should be your passion and your purpose.
Yes.
I connect
Yes.
everything together. So when I'm looking to work with individuals, my thought and my prayer is let me find the individuals that need my help the most,
Mm-hmm.
whoever they are. And
Mm-hmm.
so that then becomes to me, that's what gives me the energy
Yeah.
and the focus, because I'm a person of helps. And I
Mm-hmm.
can't help that. That's
Right.
my family is a family of helps. And so I'm looking, to give, and people pick up on that. Now you
Mm.
can try to can things, you can try to cover over things, but authentically you is going to show. So as you said,
Yes.
this platform is not for those that are looking for, self, but
Yep.
those that are truly looking to help and support others. And they will see that, excuse me, in your story and how you present it, how you talk. And that's why it's important to tell your story, because
Mm-hmm.
then you will find those individuals that connect with you.
I always go to someone's site before I choose to interview them or not.
Yeah. Hmm.
You came from through the wonderful Heather, who's a wonderful publicist, and she gives me a whole load of information already there. So I
Yeah.
know if I'm going to be engaged.
Yeah.
No, this one's not for me. Oh yeah,
Right.
I love what they're doing. They've got to come
Hmm.
on,
Yeah.
right? And I think that people have got to actually understand. A lot of people maybe not even have sites, and it's like just social media. So where do people have the time to go through all of your social media to discover who you are? I think
That's
we
true.
still need a site, and we
Mhm.
need that about you. That
Yes.
yes is professional, but is
Yes.
warm and inviting.
Yes.
Right? I
Yes.
don't want
Yes.
an AI stereotype. I want to
Hmm.
know, looking at you, or just reading something about you, I want to know more.
Right. And so you're absolutely correct. Some people, the first place they will usually go is to your website.
Hmm.
So those that don't have a website, at least a landing page that
Yeah.
has some information, because that is your online business card.
Yes.
And so you have to see it that way, and that's part of your story. This is part of building. They're going to connect the dots from what
Hmm.
you say and what they see. And if they don't line up, there's a problem. So if they've heard you speak, or like you've heard me speak, and you go and you look at what I do on various online platforms, and it doesn't line up, then we've broken trust already.
Right.
So in the social media platforms, you use that personal profile to to share more about yourself. If you look at
Hmm.
my personal profile on Facebook, you will find the things that I'm passionate about
Hmm.
outside of working, and how I sometimes connect, even gardening that I love to do with a lesson learned that may help other solopreneurs or
Hmm.
small businesses, etc. So yes, all of it tells your story. All of it's a part of the story, and it all needs to be cohesive, and there needs to
Hmm.
be a strategy with it as well, so that the right message is being portrayed and not the wrong.
Yes.
Because you could be the best person in the world, but
Hmm.
if they only know that by speaking with you, but they
Exactly.
also have to see that in print.
And that's the invitation. And
Mhm.
if they show that, if you've shown that you're a multifaceted person, and that you have a lot of interest, but they can see in each one of the interests, the heart of you is showing.
Yes. It is. It
right?
does show. It
So
does
there
show.
isn't, a lot of people know that's my professional page and this is my personal page, and that you can look at them and go, connection, you know? And it's,
Exactly.
I always say that if you're going to meet people in person in the grocery store, at a restaurant or whatever, you want to know you're meeting the person that you believe,
Hmm.
is that there was a great story of a woman that was talking to somebody on an online platform that was represented by this person that was very big coach, right? And she thought
Hmm.
that she was having this conversation. And then one day she got to actually meet her. And then she said, "Oh, I'm so delighted to meet you in person. I've loved
Hmm.
our conversations." And the woman had no idea who she was because the assistant was the one that was connecting
Oh,
with her.
okay. Okay. Yeah.
Right. That to
That's
me
a
immediately would
problem.
go red flag, a red flag, a
Yes,
red flag. How
that is a
genuine is that person? Maybe I should
exactly.
be talking to the assistant for help.
Right, right. That is so true. That is so true. That's where you combine the automation
Mm,
and the human touch points as
yeah.
well. And I help individuals kind of go through that process and just kind of understand in getting that clarity on what you should do and when, what you should automate and not. But
Mm,
definitely you don't want to have that situation where the person thinks that they have a real
mm,
connection with you and realize that it's all automation.
right.
Hmm.
No, because, again, in a world where there's so much bombardment of fake, and we're
Yes,
constantly having to question, is it real? Is it not real? We want to know that if we're making a connection with someone, that this is real.
yes, yes.
And
And
that,
that's what
that
the
is going to
on
continue to be real.
yeah, continue. That's what the online presence is about. And sometimes when I'm talking with individuals, um, if I'm doing a promotion of some sort and they comment, a question, I'm answering it personally
Mm,
because I've given some of those other tasks, for following up with this or posting, etc. But I'm going to be the one to talk to individuals. And that's why I prefer organic leads over
mm,
paid leads, because
yes.
organically you have the opportunity to really connect and have the insight as to what the person really needs. Sometimes they're not explaining it, what their real problem is.
Mm,
They see the top of the iceberg, but
hmm
as an expert, you see the bottom, which we
Yes.
know is way more
Way
there
deeper.
than what's on the surface.
Yeah.
So with that, we're able to help and to guide them and get the results that they really need.
You know, talking about leads, you've got so many platforms like buy leads, buy, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
won't do that for many reasons.
Hmm.
Um, I get a lot of referrals, or I see something that somebody's written,
Hmm.
or even on LinkedIn when you look at a profile, oh, that sounds very interesting. I wouldn't mind
Right.
connecting,
Hmm.
right? And I think is that we have to allot a certain amount of time to choose whom we're going to connect to,
Yes.
and not this, and it's not about numbers for numbers sake. It's about real connections with
Right.
real people. And I
Hmm.
think that we've been sold this hype, oh, you've got to have this many followers to be important. No, I rather have the handful that are
Right.
genuine than
Right.
the thousands that, who the hell are you?
Right. And I have a saying that tell to many clients that say, well, I have so many thousands upon thousands of followers or responses. And I say, well, likes doesn't pay the bills,
No.
but a proven process will. So I don't
Yes.
want them to fall into
Yeah.
the common mistakes, because you do not need thousands, tens of thousands in order to have a sufficient amount of clients. That
Exactly.
means that until you're ready to scale, and then you put in other systems,
Yes.
but organically and small numbers, as long as everything, the strategies in place, you will have the conversion. And then you need fewer clients. You can give them the personal attention.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, the pricing is there, is reflected in that as well. So yes, the organic, the personal touch
Yeah.
pays off much better, and you're building customers for life. You have loyalty, you have a solid
Yes.
foundation and base, and guess what? They're going to
Referral.
refer you to
Yes.
others. You said it, referrals. They're going to
Yeah.
refer you, which is way better than a paid advertisement any day.
it's so much more organic and it's the same thing, um, do you endorse this person? Well, no, if I don't know you, I won't.
Right,
Right. If
exactly.
I've interviewed you, I will, and I will endorse with your show link so you can come and see for yourself. If I've
Right.
had a conversation and we maybe have pursued each other's business, but I like what you've had to say, I will. But
Hmm.
this again, we've been conditioned. You've got to endorse, you've got to like, you've got to have the numbers. No, you
Right.
don't.
That
Now,
is true.
I would like to talk about, you know, um, how we share ourselves on social medias. And like, um, I do a 2 minute TikTok every week. And
Okay.
Jenny kind of, I do my own show every week, Sarah's View of Life, and that is kind of whatever stirs me. And I'm
Hmm.
very much an advocate for accountability and
Yeah.
responsibility
Yes.
and
Yes.
compassion and everything else.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
whatever's going on, I will speak to it because that's
Hmm.
my platform on my show. And then
Hmm.
I would generally do a 2 minute video to go on TikTok.
Hmm.
And and the reason I do that is because there are TikTok followers and there's a lot more of them there than because
Right.
it is short and sweet. But you
Hmm.
never know, always put a link wherever you're going to invite them back to a deeper content. So
Yes.
whether it is LinkedIn is maybe more professional, Facebook maybe more personal, it's knowing your platforms of
Hmm.
what you're going to show or how you're going to share it, but also make sure the consistency is there, right?
The consistency, knowing the platform, and more importantly, or equally as important, is also knowing your
Yeah.
audience. Because then you'll know which platform they're on, and
Hmm.
then you'll know what to say. Let's
Yes.
look at maybe some common mistakes that people make with telling their story online. And their story could be part of a campaign, etc. But sounding too generic to please everyone.
Hmm.
So you have to be careful with that. And then you have to speak directly to a specific pain of your audience, your hero, which is your audience. And then people are leading with a feature. They're talking about other things instead of connecting with the person. Talking about well, I have this platform, and
Hmm.
I can, it costs so much money a month, etc. So
Hmm.
you've missed that. That's the trap. You don't want that. Then the fix, which is lead with the character's transformation.
Hmm.
So when you're telling your story, get specific, and then speak directly to their pain. Don't talk about the features, but talk about the transformation that you experienced that
Hmm.
they could also experience. And then post with consistency,
Yes.
with a purpose, as you had just stated. That's very important to have that purpose. And then ensure every message drives towards a specific action.
Hmm.
So you must ask them or point them, and it's a flow, and we call it a funnel, where you move a person along naturally in order to get the support that they need. And
Right.
so as you go from one step to the next, it's building on where you started. So it's all part of the authenticity and the connection and knowing what to say when, what platform to be
Mm.
on, when, and the audience.
And that is, again, I think, a lot of people don't use their time wisely. You've got X amount of time for your clientele. You've got to have time for yourself. Otherwise, how do you
Yes.
rejuvenate? But also this is my social media time. I'm
Hmm.
blocking off this. And what do I want to say? I've got a message this week. On
Yes.
which platform, how do I share that message? It's not one size fits all.
Right.
Obviously, when I'm sharing shows, I am sharing
Hmm.
the shows and what, kind of a blurb on what the show is about across all
Hmm.
of the platforms. But when I'm
Right.
sharing something else, and you want to be inspirational because that's your
Yes.
invitation. It's
Yes.
always wanting to leave something where, like, I'd like to know more.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So with sharing, you do need to be specific
Hmm.
on okay, on a particular campaign. Say, for instance, I want to talk to women about, oh, let's pick a topic. Well, let's talk about how to generate leads in
Hmm.
this day and age with AI taking over
Hmm.
everything. So I want to go to a particular platform. I want to talk to a particular group within that platform. And I want to start with making a genuine connection.
Hmm.
I want to start with just inviting them to say hello.
Yes.
What are you going through? Are there any problems? And I want to provide value.
Yeah.
For instance, say hello. My engagement's low. Say hello, and I'll drop by your page and give you a tip on visibility. I
Mm,
appreciate you.
hmm.
That doesn't, cost anything, and there's nothing connected to that. There's nothing behind that. That's just a token of appreciation. Well, you could get hundreds of
Mm,
individuals that will drop by and say hello. And you can build on that type of platform with that group because you know that it resonated with them.
yeah.
And so you follow a process. And there you can, without singling anyone out or
Hmm.
without saying, okay, let's get on my calendar and book for a
Right.
consultation, you can simply keep that conversation going right there on that platform, dropping tips and
Yes.
information and support. That's genuine, that's sincere.
Yeah.
So if I'm trying to move you off of the platform, I have an ulterior motive. There's nothing wrong with selling, but
No.
I'd like to make an offer, and make the offer in a way is after they've asked me,
Hmm.
can I talk with them more about the situation? Can I assist them with this particular situations? And then I'll say, sure, let's talk in a closed environment.
Yes, exactly. Because
And
then again, that was the invitation,
yes,
right? So, and then there's another format that I kind of quite like. So when somebody maybe on Facebook, asks a question and gives you A, B, and C. What do you think? And then people kind of react to that, and then you go back into every single one of those people. I
yes,
I like what you said, or why have you said this? And there
yes,
again, slot time aside
yes.
to be able to do that so that you can get personal with people. This is
Hmm.
where AI or anybody else can't do it for you. This is you
Right. This is you.
sharing your expertise, going in and saying, okay, why did you ask that? Or this, that, etc. Be
Hmm.
engaged. I think one of the biggest problems we have today is people being engaged,
That is true.
participating, right?
Participating. And part of the problem is that people post and ghost. So they'll
Yes,
post
yes.
and they may do a thumbs up, and that's it.
Yeah.
So they don't stay for the engagement. Now, when you speak about social media platforms, the algorithms are watching, and
Yes.
Facebook is definitely watching. And
Hmm.
so if you're not responding within a timely manner, then your post doesn't go out to a wider audience, to
Right.
audiences where they'll just go to the same general few.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, they're looking for your engagement, which is your sincerity,
Hmm.
and wanting to connect authentically, and they will reward that. So there are strategies. When I say strategies, there's a process
Hmm.
that you must go through if you're going to post. Then you need to be accountable to those people that have taken the time. They stopped their scrolling, they responded to you, and then you need to respond back to them, and not just thanks for the comment,
Yeah.
etc. You can take a moment depending on how many people have responded. I usually like to start my day early in the morning,
Hmm.
very early in the morning, and setting aside time. You
Hmm.
talked about balance before. You have to balance. In other words,
Yes.
otherwise you'll burn yourself out.
Yes.
And you can get overwhelmed, and you can, post. So you post based upon your ability to respond.
Hmm.
So it's not that you have to post two, three, 4 times a day.
Hmm.
And you don't have to post 5 times a week. You may only post 2 to 3 times a week. But in between times, you are specializing in following up genuinely with those individuals that have responded or replied or
Right.
commented, and you
Exactly.
keep the conversation going that way. And that way your audience
Engagement.
will
Hmm.
will will grow. There
Yeah.
is engagement. You
Yeah.
engage, you go and you look at their profile, and you comment on their posts that they've already posted. It's a
Exactly.
reciprocal. And
Yes.
that means you care. If I'm going to spend a little time, that means I genuinely care about people, and they understand that. And it
Hmm.
changes their perception. And then we go into the know, like, and trust. They know me a little
Yeah.
better. They like me a
Yeah.
little bit more, and they trust me because I'm not trying to sell to them.
Right. You're showing them
Yes.
because you're
Mhm.
participating.
you're participating.
Exactly. Now,
You want engagement and
you've
participation,
got to, you've got
and
to
so do they.
participate. It's the same with your own journey. If you want to heal, if you want to pivot, if you want to, have success in your life, you've got to participate. It isn't somebody saying, just do this automation. No, it's about you being engaged, with other people from your own participation of engagement
Mhm.
with self. Now, one of
Yes.
my pet peeves, and I'm afraid I'm very generic on this when people do it, is a no thank you, is
Mm.
immediately people going into your DM, or my phone isn't even out there, so I don't even know how people get my phone number. And then coming in, and I get a long, huge blurb. My program, my this, my this, my that, only this and that, sign up here
Mhm.
now. Well, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, I don't know who the hell you are. You haven't even, bothered to, say, let's connect, or I've looked at your thing, or I've done this or done
Right.
that. And for me, it's intrusive.
It is. It is very intrusive. And etiquette is important here.
Very.
AI doesn't know about etiquette per
No.
se. They're just, as a matter of just going in and just getting the job done. And
Hmm.
that's what machines do. But, if a person is commenting on my post, I am going to ask them, um, would you mind or would you like for me to send you more information?
Hmm.
Write in the comment and they'll
Yeah,
say yes or no. If they say yes, sure, then I will. That's an invitation. But if they don't respond, etc., I haven't put them in an awkward position. They can respond
exactly.
or not. I'm
Right.
not demanding that they make a decision, putting them on the spot. They can choose to. And
Mm.
if you phrase your questions,
Mm.
your comments correctly, a person will say, well, I'd like to talk with you more about this.
Exactly.
And that's the best position that you want to be in, that they see enough concern and value that you've provided that they want to continue a conversation with you. And that you can do, by showing, by giving value and information and assistance, not only on your posts, but in other groups where they participate in as well. Show up there, be helpful there. But this is only works
Mm.
if that is your personality. I take individuals through this test um, that lines up what they're passionate about, what they believe their purpose is for, what they were born to do, what their purpose here on earth is, what they've been paid for.
Hmm.
And then I talk to them about their offer, their business. What's your mission and vision, your goals of your business? And then sometimes I'm able to show them a great disconnect, a
Hmm.
disparity between the two of who you are and what you're passionate about and what you're doing, because that passion is very convincing and contagious
Hmm.
to individuals. And when you're passionate about what you do, it shows, and people want to connect with that. They want to connect with that confidence and that clarity.
Mm. But what is the invitation to? Because once they've accepted the invitation, are you now ready
Hmm.
to, show them what it is you're offering? Have you got that
Yes.
strategy in place? Is it one size fits all? Or is it something that is flexible according to the person asking?
Well, when you're talking or when you're doing your posting, it should be posting for a specific audience
Hmm.
so that you have something to offer them if
Yeah.
they need help and support. So, what you can offer them next depends upon the conversation. But yes, you need to have that clarity. If you don't have clarity to begin with in the beginning,
Right.
it's confusion. And so
Yes.
all you're doing is amplifying confusion, and they will not convert. They're not interested in talking because they can spot that. You have too many things going on. That's why you have to, as they say, specify. You have your ideal client, but you also have different buyers that are segmented within that profile.
Hmm.
And when you do that, then you're targeting your messaging to those individuals. And you already have what I call your benefit stack, information that you can give to them free of charge that's going to help them along their journey, that's going to give them a few pointers or give them an opportunity or a way to reach out if they get stuck in a particular area. So you should have your strategy in mind. And when I say strategy, it's not like a cold
Yes.
business strategy. it's just a matter of having a process and a procedure of where if you genuinely want to help a person,
Hmm.
if you're really yearning to help an individual, then you'll be able to say, you don't want to ask someone if they're hungry and not have
Mm.
any food that you know of
Right,
around to
exactly.
give them, as an
Yeah.
example. So you want to be able to, if they say, well, I need help based within your wheelhouse, or be able to refer them to an individual that can give them that support. That's why it's good to network and have community.
And just knowing as far as networking is concerned, I've got a few that are my favorites. I have some physical local ones
Yes.
because I'm kind of known as the local podcaster.
Hmm.
And it's really nice to meet people in person, etc. But I have a few online that I go to, and the reason I like them is they go into breakout rooms where you really have a
Yes.
chance to have a
Yes.
conversation,
To
which I
have
think
that
is really,
conversation.
really important. It's
Hmm.
like it isn't about again the numbers or like the proverbial swap cards. It's
Right.
about, oh yeah, I do this, but this is why I do it. And be
Exactly.
interested in each other.
And
Go
each
in
other
there looking to
genuinely. Yes.
support each other.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Because again, going back to that referral, I really,
Hmm.
I don't need your services, but I love what you have here. And I know
Hmm.
somebody that could benefit from it. And we've
Hmm.
always got to be thinking not just about the person in front of us, but whom else it could serve because you've inspired someone to think of someone else.
Sarah, that's spot on. I have a community of startup, it's called a startup business group. And that community is huge. It's over 51,000 in there. And we have what's called a speed networking,
Hmm.
where we spend 6 to 7 minutes with an individual that you don't know in a breakout room
Hmm.
to get to know that person. And it shocked me
Hmm.
when I first kind of went into a few of the rooms to see what was being discussed. They were pitching. They were doing their full-on
Right.
sales
Yeah.
pitch. They
Hmm.
didn't know much of anything about the other person, and they took the time. And I'm like, well, why would I buy from you when you're not even interested knowing
Exactly.
anything about me? So I
Exactly.
had to set up rules and guidelines
Hmm.
for individuals. But you think the easiest thing or the most common thing that you would think that a person would say hello before they say buy this, that
Yes.
they're missing that. They're
Yeah.
missing that.
They are.
And so
They're
the
missing the
genuine
why.
connection, and
Yeah.
I've met so many wonderful people networking in
Hmm.
person and online
Hmm.
that I've formed partnerships with. We
Yes.
refer customers to each other, and we
You build a
also partner
community.
on different
Yeah.
platforms and do different things together, speaking engagements together,
Hmm.
etc., on different platforms. So yes, that is key, and that's genuine. And knowing how to tell your story
Yeah.
even in networking, can prove to be invaluable to you because then a person gets to know, like, and trust you in your 1 or 2 minute overview of your story. And
Yeah.
that's why this is important. And then everything there from there is backed up, and you can exchange information and then connect offline and then take it to the next step.
And it's own who you are. I'm quirky.
Hmm.
Sarah is like, used to be called the hippie chic. I'm
Hmm.
a little
Okay.
out there.
Yeah.
And it, was always me trying to kind of fit in to
Hmm.
what was expected of me. And then never
Hmm.
having success that way until Sarah became quirky. And then
Okay.
then I kind of gave permission for other people to let that guard down and just be
Yes.
themselves. And
Hmm.
so it is own who you are.
Yes.
Right? Because people don't want to know the facade of you. They want to
Hmm.
know the heart of
They
you.
want to
Yes.
know you, and conviction. Another thing I talk, conviction over performance. In
Hmm.
essence, talk from your convictions, not to perform, because people feel alignment before they even process words. So it's your aura, it's your presence.
Yes.
They see first your tone, your pace, your convictions. They communicate confidence faster than credentials.
Right.
Mm.
Back in the day, I'd have publicists send me people and I've had a few people in the past which I call are grandstanders. They're used to
Yes,
being on a stage and da, 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 bigger than life.
yes,
But when it came to actually having a conversation, and then I would say something to something they've said, oh, what do you mean? And it's like they're so used to the stage. And basically they have
performance.
the art of performing, talking, but it's hi. Hi,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
here. And you just
Right.
don't feel that you're being spoken to.
Two.
Feel that you're being
That's right.
spoken at, you know?
Right. That's right. And that's all about, being genuine.
Yeah,
Some people are not able to be vulnerable.
right.
But over time, you become a little stronger and you're able to open up a little more. But you can start where you are, tell as much as you feel comfortable about, and then you'll be surprised of, who resonates with that. And that is,
Exactly.
as I said, your tribe. But, and then you may want to tell more of your story in a small gathering,
Right.
one-on-one over coffee with
Yeah.
5 or 6 women, and you feel better about revealing or being vulnerable in that setting. And that's okay too.
Hmm.
That's okay too. So just start where you are and learn and build and grow. There was a
Step by
young
step.
lady that I worked with many years ago, and she was talking about health and wellness. And she was an engineer. She had a PhD in engineering and she was very successful. And she came down with cancer of the thyroid.
Mm,
And she became frustrated with medicine. And she took it into her own hands and dealt with health and wellness. Well, now she's a nutritional coach and
hmm.
she's known worldwide now. However, she didn't tell her story. And I was like, that is the biggest common denominator.
Yeah.
You must tell them that this was your experience, how you
Mhm.
overcame, and what you're doing today to survive and stay cancer free. If you don't tell that story, then you're just like everyone else out there. You're the
Exactly.
same, same, same. So your story, even though you may not see it as significant, is what differentiates you from the
Mm.
next person. And everyone's always talking about how do I stand out from a crowd,
Hmm.
and how do I, get eyes on me per se is by telling your story and being genuinely authentic in your purpose and passion for helping.
There's a beautiful word called flawsome, which I absolutely love. And every single one of us has a flaw, a
Yeah.
quirk. It's something
Mm-hmm.
that makes us who we are. And
Mm-hmm.
it's how to become awesome, either despite or with the flaw. All
Mm-hmm.
right. And if we stop using the word perfection and
Mm-hmm.
look at that, there are perfect moments in time, there are
Mm-hmm.
perfect situations, but life isn't perfect.
Right.
Right. And if we look at as just being flawsome and owning who we are,
Mm-hmm.
and owning the quirks and the vulnerabilities or whatever we are,
Mm-hmm.
I think then people feel more invitational to share their own quirk, their own
Yes.
vulnerability.
Yes.
Nobody wants to share their vulnerability among somebody who appears to be perfect. But we
Right.
know that take the facade down, behind them, they're a mess,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
We want to recognize that flawsomeness.
Yes, absolutely. I love that word,
Mm.
awesomeness, and I may use that. I'll
Go,
give you
go,
credit
use
for
it,
it though.
share it out. I think it came from Tyra Banks originally, but I love the word,
So with your flossomeness, that is your vulnerability and your authenticity, but being consistent
Mm.
also gives you power. Being original and
Yeah,
being consistent. So start where you are. Your consistency will carry you further. People, jump on and jump off, and then they try this and try that. But when you're consistent, you'll have the rewards. That consistency will bring you power that is unimaginable. So repetition will build recognition with the consistency. It will also build trust. And it will
yes.
also, with that trust, will build conversion. So that's the catalyst
Mm.
is your flossomeness and your consistency. Start where you are. You're okay just as you are.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
it's also to be vulnerable in your vulnerability. We all have good days and bad days.
Yes.
Right. And if you've built a community around you of your vibe tribe, and it could be your clientele, it could be your other colleagues, but when you can just say like having a bad day or just low energy today, and other people rallying around you,
Yes.
then you know that it's like it isn't about always being perfect.
And
Yeah,
that's
I
correct.
I have a little illness that carries with me, and lately it has been a little bit of an anchor. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like I've had to say no to things that I normally love saying yes to.
Yes.
And it's like knowing sometimes, I can't, I've only got this amount of energy. I can only put that out. That
Right.
doesn't mean that there's something, wrong. It just means that I need to be selective and look after myself, because if I can't look after myself, how can I serve anyone else?
Correct. 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 That accountability, um, that speaks volumes. All of us need an accountability partner, for one,
Hmm.
that helps keeps us motivated and encouraged on the bad days.
Yes.
And then we also need another person or a partner, coach or consultant that's going to help us as well through this journey,
Hmm.
because more people than I realize have an issue with perfectionism. So they
Yes.
never get beyond a certain point
Hmm.
with anything that they're accomplishing, because they're always going back to correct, and it has to
Hmm.
be perfect before I do. That's
Yeah.
why I want people to understand you're okay where you are.
Yeah.
Start,
Hmm.
just start. Because becoming visible serves another purpose.
Hmm.
Visibility is generosity in motion.
Yes. Yes.
So when you're visible, you are sharing of yourself, and that is confirming who you are as a person. And you just keep pushing until out of your comfort zone, in your comfort zone, get your partner to help you, get a coach, a consultant to help. But that's all part of your story and your process that you share. I
Yeah.
needed help, I needed a partner, I needed etc. So that's part of the process.
And I think, the biggest leap we take is that first step,
Yes,
right?
it's
And
the
it's like you
hardest.
don't need to know it all. All you need to do is have a willingness to learn, a
That's correct.
willingness to pivot. And again,
Hmm.
with the 3,000 shows under my belt, the amount of people that
Hmm.
had, the biggest success that when I
Hmm.
reach here, I'm going to be happy, I'm going to be this, that. And then the nudge, nudge, and the wink, wink, they didn't pay attention to. And along came the
Right.
cosmic two by four, right?
Yeah, that's
And
right.
then it
And
flattened them. But what that
right.
was for like a phoenix for them to rise into the redirection of where they were meant to go. Case in point, your engineer getting
Hmm.
cancer. She was
Yes.
finally, with the engineering mind of being able to look at things differently,
Yes.
she then found her purpose through
Yes.
her experience that now serves people.
It
We've got
serves
to
people.
understand that
Hmm.
those redirects,
Yes.
our pudding is on the right path, but we're
Hmm.
taking the knowledge that we've learned thus far to
Right.
apply.
Yes. Yes. That is it. So sharing your message is an act of service, not
Yes,
self-promotion.
exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. I think that we know we have more and more women today that are entrepreneurs than ever in time, and many have come from corporate or other platforms where they said that was my training ground,
Hmm.
right? Now that I don't want to be generic. I don't want to do things by, kind of cold exterior. I want to bring the heart and soul into it.
Yes.
I've got that passion to do something.
Hmm.
It's just maybe I don't know how. I don't know the strategy of how to go about it. I've
Yes.
got the passion, I've got the goods, but
Hmm.
how do I put it in place? And this is
Yes.
where you come along, is
Yes.
to showing them, okay, let's first understand why are you wanting to do it?
Right.
Who are
That's so
you in
fair.
doing it, and whom are you serving? Once
And
you've
service.
identified that, then the
Right.
strategy can be found and how to apply it.
That is so true. That is so true. We spend a lot of time in clarity
Mm,
and in the ebook that I'm giving to help with the mindset, because there's a certain mindset that you need to have to be
yes.
successful in business. And also with that, it helps you to bring about the clarity in your offer, and
Mm,
offer meaning what you're offering of yourself. Now you may have you know 30,000 stories in you, but which one is the appropriate one to tell, and which one is
yes.
going to be helpful in this season with
Hmm.
individuals? And so all stories can be told over
Mm,
time, but
yes.
there's a time and a place for them. So, yes, we need the clarity to begin with. We do discovery of ourselves, we become clear in our mindset, and then we clarify our our offer, our what we're going to offer, whether ourselves and our service, and then we're able to kind of scale that to
Mm.
whatever height that you may want to reach, because then you have a platform, a foundation, and an excellent framework to build upon.
Back in my day with everything that I did, I came from passion.
Hmm.
But what I didn't come from was the clarity of what to do with that passion.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And, when I started this journey 14 years ago, it was something I never expected to
Hmm.
go on this journey. And I think
Hmm.
it's that, again, letting go of the clamps. I mean,
Yes.
kind of surrendering to the passion,
Yes.
allowing the process to unfold in a natural way, but knowing whom can help you take it and strategize it, compartmentalize it where it needs to be, when it needs to be free, identifying who your client is, and
Yes.
and and going and allowing yourself to experience
Hmm.
that flow. Because what you want, whatever you do, you want it to be in flow. You want it to be in rhythm.
Yes.
You
Yes.
want it to have a life of its own that you are supporting, and that means you've got to allow the experts to help you put it in the right order, because I
That's
didn't have
true.
the strategy and there weren't people that many around when I was doing this, right?
Yes. Yes.
But now we've got people like yourself there who can help you
Yes.
understand what your passion is, whom does it serve, how does it serve them, and how are we going to go about it.
How to
So
go about it.
you are giving away this compass book, the Clarity
Yes.
Compass.
The
Choose
clarity
your
compass.
next right step in just 20 minutes, and people can receive that workbook by
Hmm.
MailChimp, MP, the marketing consulting consultant.us/clarity compass. And of course,
Yes.
if they go to selfdiscoverywisdom.com and simply put in your name, Gayle Marie Morrison, your entire show page and everything, all the information comes out there. But
Okay.
they could probably find it from your website as well, right?
Yes, that is true. That is true. My website, you can go to Stay Booked Solid, STAYBOOKED, solid.com, and receive information there as well.
And you're on LinkedIn under Gayle
Uh,
Marie TMC.
yes.
And Facebook, the Marketing Consultant 77, and you're also on Facebook, Gayle Marie 5855. So people can
Hmm.
start being engaged with you. And that
Hmm.
is the big thing, is like very often people, may have left a particular constructed world and like, I
Yes.
really want to do this, right?
Yes.
I've got the
Yes.
passion. I want to be engaged. I want to participate in this. It's just like, what should my next steps be? Or they may have even started and finding, but you know what? This is feeling out of balance, or I'm spending too
Right.
much time there. I don't know
Hmm.
how to structure it in a way that
Right.
it's working for me and I'm not constantly working for
Working.
it.
Right. So I'm working with the startups and I'm working with those that are stuck
Mhm.
because
Great. Start up and stuck.
they don't know how, yeah, they don't know how to pivot.
Yes.
A lot of individuals are coming out of the federal government and they want to start a
Mm,
business, but they don't know what to do. And
right.
so we start with the business development piece. So yes, so eh, eh, offering, there's nothing more satisfying than you telling your story, which is offering a life raft to someone who's actively drowning in a
Yeah.
problem that you know how to solve.
Yes. There's so much self-gratification in there with people.
Yeah.
Oh, he's eager. No, it isn't. It's that we're allowed to stand tall in our purpose.
Yes.
We're allowed to say, I did that, I made that difference, because that's what
Mhm.
we're here for. We're here to
Yes.
make a difference in each other's lives. And as we have an impact on someone else's life, that has an impact on our life. And that
It does.
beautiful shared energy just
It does.
keeps on growing and expanding out.
Yes. I always like to say your success is my success. The more
Yeah.
successful you are, the more successful I feel.
Yeah.
And so if I can help you, then that's all that I need.
And that we all want to know that what we're doing, the hours that we're putting in our business, that yes, we want to know that the client is getting what they need out of it and they're
Yes.
thriving. But we
Yes.
also want to know, we're saying, would you wake up every day and go to work whether you're paid or not? Right now, of course, we all need payment. Don't get that idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's if you would do it for free, then you're doing the right thing.
Right. Right.
right? But no, don't
That is
expect anyone
true.
to do it for free.
That is true. That's true. And a lot of us work for free
Yes,
as entrepreneurs.
yes,
We're giving. They may not buy at that time,
right.
but maybe later. But we are giving. But it's something different about the passion. To
Mm,
me, it doesn't matter. I do a lot of volunteer and extremely low cost work for individuals that just need the support but don't have the
yeah,
budget, and individuals that just really don't, but they have a great idea and they have great passion, and they're genuine, and you just kind of hate to leave anybody on the side of the road that could make a difference, that has something that's going to help so many people, but they just can't pull it all together. And I work with them as well. Right now I'm doing a free presentation, pitch offer for, to make sure that people are telling their story and it's coming across, so that they
mm,
can be of help and service to the individuals that they want to do. So I enjoy doing this. I wish I didn't have to get paid for it, but what I
right.
do
We
is
all have
that
a roof over our head.
except for the roof and the lights and the
Yeah,
gas, got to charge something.
exactly.
But I love what I'm doing and love helping people succeed.
You know, from my spiritual point of view, is when we look at the world right now, we're in transition of our energies. And when people say, I don't know how to be that, I'm one person, I can't make a difference. And I
Hmm.
say this: empower your own energy,
Hmm.
enrich your own soul,
Yes.
make abundant your own service. You've already elevated your energy.
Yes, you
All
have.
right. And the more of us that do that, invest in ourselves so we can invest in each other, we
Yes.
are raising that consciousness. We're raising that frequency. And
Yes.
all the thunder that we're hearing right now will start to dim out because
Hmm.
it cannot survive in that positive energy.
That
So
is true.
follow your dream, follow your passion, follow your
Hmm.
heart and soul, follow your
Hmm.
meaningful purpose. We need you to rise. We need
Yes.
you to serve. We need your energy out there because that is how we're going to serve ourselves, our community, and our world.
That is true. That is true. And when we started, we talked about the messaging alchemy, and the
Mm,
formula is clarity converts,
yes.
consistency compounds,
Mhm.
and the story sells.
Exactly.
Your message is your market power.
Yeah, it is. It most certainly is. And you want to know that your message is very true to who you are, and
Yes.
that people can feel it from you.
Yes.
People want to feel, and when they feel you, that
Hmm.
is when they want to be more engaged with you. So
Yes.
yeah, is the feeling in the words that you're sharing, is there
That's true.
feeling in the interaction you're having,
That's it.
right? Don't be
That is it.
constantly looking at the dollar sign, be looking at the connection.
That is true. You have to own it.
Exactly.
Own your story. Hmm.
So again, it's staybookedsolid.com, and on LinkedIn, Gail Marie TMC, and Facebook, The Marketing Consultant, and then also Facebook, Gail Marie. Start being engaged. And don't forget,
Yes.
you can get the Clarity Compass for free.
Hmm.
Start your process there, but be willing to participate in your own journey
Yes.
openly, honestly, and
Hmm.
allow yourself to absorb the knowledge that you need to
Yes.
become the success we know you can be.
Yes. That's the mindset.
Thank you so much for sharing here, Gail.
Thank you so
And
much for having me.
oh, my pleasure. And I'm going to have you back again on a totally different subject
Yes,
around
I'm looking forward to that as well.
on medical and exactly what to
Yes.
ask,
Yes.
which is a big
Yes.
question, which
Hmm.
I look forward to that one as well. But folks, bottom line of it is, if you believe it, if you are it, and you are sharing it with conviction and passion,
Yes.
there is somebody out there that wants to connect with you,
Yes.
right? So be your story. That's the importance. So thank you so much, Gail. And
All
to
right.
everyone out there, don't be afraid to be you. Until next time, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you to listen to right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Come and hear the illumination that's going to shed light on your path.
Find your path with the knowledge of others. Become an illuminator for those who struggle.